Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to create this cute little shaker card. This is a little gift card and we're going to be using some brand new images from the Art Impressions line. So this set just came out and this is called the Birds and Bugs set. And what I did is I went ahead and stamped that with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink onto some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. And now let's grab some markers here to do our coloring. So let's start off with sugared almond pink, orange, and smoky teal. And those are the three colors we'll use to color in all of these little birds. So for markers today, I'm using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. And to do my blending, I'm using the Zig Blender pen. Now you could certainly use a water brush here as well, whatever you prefer. These are water-based markers, so they'll blend either way. I do find it a little easier to use the blender pen. It's just a little bit more controllable. It's not quite as wet as a water brush might be. So whatever you're used to or whatever you feel most comfortable with here. I'm not going to add any other blue colors. I'm just going to stick with that smoky teal, and I'll just add layers of that to get my shadowing just right. And I put a little bit of the sugared almond pink on the cheeks and then a touch of orange on the beak. So now let's go to these little bees, and I'll use yellow, mustard, and haze blue. So I'm going to start off with that haze blue on the wings, just a little touch of it just to create a little tiny shadow there. You could also use a light gray here as well. And then I'm going to use the yellow and then a bit of that mustard for a little bit of a shadow there. So now I'm going to grab the deep vermilion, and this is a beautiful red. It's one of the newer colors. And I'll place a bit of it down at the bottom of these little ladybugs, and then I'll just kind of pull that up towards the top there. And these are all really simple and easy to color in. And then with light red grape and peach pink, I'll color in my little butterflies. So I'm adding that peach pink first, then a little touch of that light red grape, and just kind of pulling it out towards the edges here. Then I'll come back in with a little bit more of that darker color right along the edges of the butterfly and pull those together here. So again, really simple coloring. So let me give you a closer look at those. Now I'm going to grab this die here, this frame die, and this is from the brand new Journal Template die set from Art Impressions. And in this set you get all of these pieces. This is designed to create a journal, but with all these little additional pieces, you've got tags and labels, you've got this frame. We'll be using another piece from this a little bit later on, so I'll show you that again. So let's go ahead and die cut this first out of some black cardstock and then some white Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. So for the black one, all I need is the frame section, and we'll be die cutting a few more of those later on. And now I'm going to grab this white frame and I'll place these little pieces right back inside here. I've just temporarily taped that frame down to my glass media mat just to hold that in place. Now let's grab this stencil from Fawn. This is a cloudy stencil, and I'm going to use the Uncharted Mariner, which is one of the new colors for the Distress Oxide Tim Holtz collection. And I'll place a little bit on my blending brush, and then what I like to do is tap that excess color right onto the stencil before I push it up onto the cardstock. That way you can control the amount of ink a little bit better, and I do like to have some light and dark areas as I'm going along here. So I'll just continue this all the way down. We're not going to be keeping that white frame. That's just to keep things lined up here. Now you certainly don't have to worry about having the stencil in order. You could just do each of those little rectangles separately, but I'm going to put them back in the same direction that I stenciled them. So I did end up numbering those on the back, numbers 1 through 4, just so I would know where to put those back later on. And I did that off camera. So you can see those are going to sit in our black frame. Now what I need to do here is layer up some of these frames to create the shaker element for our card. So I just die cut a whole bunch of these. I think I have 4 or 5 there. And I'm going to use my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and attach all of these together. And you do want to take a little bit of time here to line all of these up. Now you could certainly use some foam mounting tape in between here if you don't want to layer all these up. That would work just as well. But here I just decided to layer it up with the cardstock. That'll give me a nice thick embellishment here. So I went ahead and finished those, and now I'm going to take one of those. So I set one aside because I want to put that clear acetate on the back of one of these frames. And that acetate is from the Lawn Fawn collection. And I'm going to go ahead and just place that 1/8 inch tape all the way around the back here. I'm pressing that down with the bone folder. That'll just make it a little easier to remove that backing. So I'm removing the backing from this entire panel here. And then I can go ahead and line up that acetate, and I just cut a piece that will fit right behind here. And I'll just place these two together. Now here I'm using the tape because I don't want any glue to ooze out onto the acetate. So now let's take that stack of frames that we created here, and you can see how nice and thick that is. And you can adjust that depending on how thick your embellishments are that you're going to be putting into the shaker card. So you can see that's how that's going to come together. So let's create the card base. This measures 4 3/4 by 7 inches, and I'll score that at 3.5. And I'm using some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. Now before I fold this, I'm going to run it through this beautiful Spellbinders embossing folder. This is called the Geo Screen, and this embossing folder is 5.5 by 8.5 inches, so it will fit this entire card inside here, which I really love this larger size now. So let's run it through the die cutting machine. I've got my platform and my 2 plates. I've just sandwiched it between the 2 plates, and I'll run that through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And you can see that beautiful design that we have. So I'm going to fold this in half, and I don't want to press too hard on that crease. I don't want to push down that beautiful embossing. So I'll just grab my bone folder and just kind of go in between those open areas there just to press it slightly here. So now you can see that the inside of the card has that beautiful embossing as well. So let's go back to that journal template die set. We're going to grab this little scalloped rectangle. And I went ahead and die cut that, and that'll sit right on the inside of our card. Since it is embossed, I wanted a nice flat area to write a little bit of a note. So I'm going back to that 1/8 inch double-sided tape, and I'll place that all around the back here. Now before I remove the backing, I'm going to do a little bit of inking here. I'm using that Uncharted Mariner Distress Oxide ink again. I'm just temporarily taping this again down to my glass media mat, and I'll go ahead and stencil those clouds on here just to coordinate that with the front of our card. And that just kind of gives us a neutral background where we can either stamp another sentiment or just write a little note. I just plan on putting a little note in here, and this will give me plenty of space to do that. So once I have that done, I can remove that backing and just place it on the inside of the card, and I'm just centering that. So let's go back to that frame. Now I'm taking that frame that we stenciled before with the clouds, and I've cut a piece of cardstock to measure the exact size of that frame. This will just hold these little rectangle panels in place. And I went ahead and numbered these panels as I mentioned earlier, and I'm just going to glue them back in place in the same exact order. So again, I'm just gluing them down to that little piece of cardstock behind there. And again, I'm using that frame to make sure I line these up nice and evenly here. You could certainly just eyeball this, but you do want it to match up with that black frame that we've got for our shaker element. So it's best to just place them right back in here. Then you know everything is lined up perfectly. So now let's go ahead and die cut our little birds. This birds and bugs set does come with the coordinating dies. And then I'm going to use some Post-it temporary tape here to tape these down. And then I'll run those through the die cutting machine. I'm just placing a little scrap paper on top there just so they don't get dirty or damaged as I run them through the die cutting machine. So now this is another brand new set. This is beautiful Christmas sentiment set, and this is also from Art Impressions, and we're going to grab that sentiment that says a gift for you. I'll go ahead and stamp this again onto some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink just like we did before. I'll press that out with my Stamp Pendable stamp pressing tool there. And then I've grabbed that label die from the Journal Template die set, and I'm going to go ahead and run this through the die cutting machine. Again, that template die set has so many cute little dies in there. So you'll find that you'll reach for that over and over again. Back to that Uncharted Mariner, and I'll go right around the edges of this just to frame this a little bit. And I'll mention to you that I have all the products listed and linked down below that I'm using today, and also listed and linked on my blog. So anything you're interested in, you can just click on the link below. So now I want to pop this up on the front of my frame. I'm using some Scotch foam mounting tape, and I'll just center that. So now let's set that aside and grab that stack of frames that we created earlier. And I'm going to place some glue on these. And again, this will line up perfectly here because we use that frame to make sure that we place those rectangles perfectly in place here. And I can go ahead and glue that down. If you have any excess there, you can just cut that away with your scissors on the edges there. And now let's go ahead and we'll grab our little critters here. So I'm going to place them in each of these windows. But first, I've grabbed the Pink and Main Anti-Static Powder Tool, and I'm just going to make sure I put plenty of powder in there so that the glitter that I'm using won't stick everywhere. So I've just placed a little bit of that in there, and then I'm just going to use my brush here to brush away any excess. I will be adding a little bit more of that later on, and that little brush is the Nuvo Surface Sweep brush, and I use that a lot. It's a really soft brush, and it allows me to just brush away any dust or excess embossing powder or whatever I want to use it for, and I really love that. It won't scratch the acetate or anything. So now I'm just sculpting these little critters a little bit just with my fingers here, just kind of curling up the wings. And then I'm going to just put a set of each in these windows. Now for the birds, I'm just going to place the two flying birds in the window, and then I'm going to save that third bird for the front of the card for my sentiment. Now it was about at this point where I realized my little ladybugs just didn't have anything to sit on. So I decided I needed a little branch to place these on. So I went to this set here, which is called the On the Sparrow set. And this is from the Bible Journaling collection. So I'm going to remove that pad from my Mini Misty, and because this is a thick cling rubber stamp. And so I'll place that stamp down, And then I can go ahead and do my inking and stamping here. And all I need from this stamp is just the branch. I don't need that little bird. So I'll go ahead and color in that branch. I'm going back to those Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. And now I'll be using beige and mid brown, and I just colored this in very quickly. Starting with the beige, a little bit of the mid brown kind of towards the bottom here, and then I'll just blend those two together. Now I'll grab my detail scissors and I'll go ahead and cut this out. And I'll leave just a little tiny bit of a white border here. Again, I'm going to be cutting away that bird. And don't worry about his little feet there. We're going to cover that with one of the ladybugs. So once that's all cut out, let's go ahead and glue that in the window there. I did cut it down just a little bit. It was a little bit longer than I needed. And then we can go ahead and glue this. I'm going to glue it kind of off towards the left here. And then we'll place those two ladybugs right onto this branch. And again, this just gives them a little place to sit here. And I do want to cover the little feet on the bird there that we cut away. So I'm just going to place this first one right there just to cover that up. And then let's go ahead and add this second one. And I am using a little bit of foam mounting tape to pop that up. So let's go ahead and glue the rest of these in place. Now keep in mind this set is going to be great with all the other sets from Art Impressions. These little bees are perfect for any of the other sets, as well as the butterflies and birds. So again, I just thought I would create one card so you could see all of these little items together, but certainly plan on using these for all of your other scene cards that you're going to be creating. So I've got some Wink of Stella here, and this is just a clear glitter pen. I'm going to add some clear glitter to the wings on the bees and the butterflies. And I added a little dot of that on the cheeks of my birds, and then I'll add it to the ladybugs as well. Now, I did let that dry completely, so I let the Wink of Stella dry completely before I did this. I decided to come back in with a little bit more of that Pink and Main anti-static powder tool, and there I'm just blowing off the excess there. Now I've got some Distress glitter. This is the Rock Candy glitter from the Tim Holtz collection, and I'm using my Nuvo dual tip spoon here just to place some inside here. Now I put just a little bit. You do want to be careful that you don't overdo the glitter, because sometimes it can take over the entire scene. So I was very conservative here, and full disclosure, later on I do end up pulling that apart and putting more glitter in there. I just didn't think I had enough. But at this point I was just going ahead with this, and I decided to grab that anti-static powder tool again and put it on the back of the acetate. Again, just brushing away any excess with that Nuvo Surface Sweep brush. And now I'll go back to that 1/8 inch double-sided tape. And I'll place it all around the frame here. And then I can carefully remove that backing. You want to make sure that glitter doesn't get up onto your tape here. So just do that very carefully. Now I can go ahead and attach that frame to the card here. So this is going to create our little shaker element. So you do want to make sure you press everything down really well so that none of your little shaker bits come come out. So you don't want those to escape. So just make sure you press that frame down nice and tight there. So now we've got our little shaker element. And again, I did come back and add a little bit more glitter. So I did pull that apart and then added some more glitter to that. I just didn't think I had enough in there. So now we can go ahead and attach this to the front of the card. This time I'm using some 1/4 inch double-sided tape. I've placed it all around the back here. And now we can glue this down to the card. And I'm just centering that. Now let's grab some black and white twine. This is just some baker's twine. And I just cut a piece. I'm just going to tie this in a bow. So I've wrapped it all the way around from the inside of the card to the outside here. I'm using my reverse tweezers just to hold that in place while I tie a bow. So once that's all set, I'll just clip away any excess there. Now let's go ahead and add that little bird, and I'm placing it off to the left-hand side of that label, but I was trying to decide here if I wanted to put it on the inside of the card or here on the front. I did decide to go with the front. You could always stamp and die cut a few more either butterflies or bees and put them on the inside. That might be really cute. This finished card will measure 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. So this is a fun little note card to give with a gift. So I think I'm going to make some more of these and just set them aside for future gift giving because they're just fun and cute. It has that little shaker element, so it makes it a little bit more interesting. And you could put anything in that little shaker window. Little sequins or some little rhinestones would be really pretty. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.